Good day everyone, I am Joy Marish Ilagan Mariano, the reporter for today's topic in Chapter 6, Asian Art. My report is entitled Asian Near Eastern Art and Islamic Art and East Asian Art. So let's start now. So first, let us define what is Asian art. So Asian art is diverse and rich, spanning thousands of years and dozens of countries. It is known for its ritual bronzes, beautiful ceramics, jades, textiles, poetic painted landscape, garden design, elaborate goldwork, extraordinary temples, shrines, pagodas and stupas, woodblock prints, shadow puppets, and the highest art form in East Asian art, the calligraphy. Today, the impact of Asia on contemporary art is immense. Since the 1990s, Asian contemporary art has grown exponentially due to a mushrooming of regional biennials and triennials. New contemporary art museums and the international recognition of artists such as Chinese-born Kai Gu Kwang, Japanese-born Mi Wayanagi, Korean artist Su Do-hoo, and the Thai artist Riknif Tiravaniha. So, Asian art is a very rich and spanning thousands of years of dasan. So, maraming mga, itong Asian art is marami siyang alam na pagkakakilanlan. Yung I mean na, pag sinabi mong Asian art, ibig sabihin, parang malakas yung impact nito sa ibang bansa, lalo na sa, ito nga yung highest art nila is the calligraphy. So, they are known for calligraphy. So, in Asian art, there is Liching Buddhist temple in the mountains in 11th century, China in Ink on Silk, Nelson Atkins Museum of Art, Kansas City, Missouri. So, as you have seen in the picture, meron po tayong example dyan. So, the history of Asian art includes a vast range of arts from various cultures, regions, and religions across the continent of Asia. Central Asian art primarily consists of works by the Turkic peoples of the Eurasian steppe, while East Asian art includes works from China, Japan, and Korea. So, yung mga Central Asian art primarily consists of works by the Turkic peoples of Eurasian steppe. So, kapag East Asian art naman, yung mga may works nun is China, Japan, and Korea. In many ways, the history of art in Asia parallels the development of Western art. The art histories of Asia and Europe are greatly intertwined. So within Asian art greatly influencing European art and vice versa. The culture mix through methods such as the Silk Road transmission of art, the cultural exchange of the age of discovery and colonization, and through the internet and modern globalization. Let us now go to ancient Near Eastern art, Neolithic area from 651 BC. So the location area of the ancient Near East is mapped differently by different governmental and academic organizations, but is generally agreed to be the northeastern countries of Africa, the eastern Mediterranean countries, the Arabian Peninsula, and Mesopotamia. Some have it reaching into as far as what we know as the Middle East. Art began to blossom in this area in Mesopotamia, especially in the 3rd millennium BC, and goes back even farther past the 8th millennium BC to the Neolithic era. Mesopotamia is spawned the world's first cities and it's some of its first art. Much of the inspiration for ancient Near Eastern art come from the relationship between the natural world and the world of the gods, except the Egypt where the Pharaoh sometimes replace the divine in art. Art history. Ancient Near Eastern art origins and historical importances. Beginning in the ancient civilization of Sumer, the land from which we have one of the first formal examples of written script as well as the first literature, the art of ceramic, sculpture, and metallurgy gained sophistication not before seen. For the first time, humanity was organizing itself into urban civilization, known as the Urban Revolution. In what is now modern-day Iraq, cities like Ur and Babylon became cosmopolitan mexas with definitive social hierarchy and status. While wealth was built from agriculture, status was dependent on the government rule or from relationship to religious status. These themes come into play within the image of they created. So this is the art history of ancient Near Eastern art. So they begin from ancient civilization of Sumer, then the humanity was organizing itself into urban civilization. Then while wealth was built, the status was dependent on the government rule. So nakadepende to sa government rule ng relationship of religious status. So here is the example of the ancient Near Eastern art. So the stele of Hammurabi. It says that if he does not plant the field that was given over to him as a garden, if it be arable land, the gardener shall pay the owner the produce of the field for the years that he left it lie fallow. To the product of neighboring fields, put the field in arable condition and return it to its owner by Hammurabi. So steles are a great example of this exaltation of reality and divinity. Pyramids, temples, and ziggurats are also examples of the reverence for greatness. The stele of Hammurabi is 7 feet tall and commemorates King Hammurabi, the first formal lawmaker from whom we get many of our own laws today. At the top, the stele depicts Hammurabi receiving his royal insignia from the god of justice, Shamash. So the lower part of the stele is written laws. Steles like this were placed publicly so that citizens would have anytime access to important public information such as the law. This sophisticated art form was important for both aesthetic and educationally progressive reasons. Reliefs on palace walls and public buildings told the story of the peoples of the land, in particular the glories of victorious battle. These reliefs are done in stylish detail and with attention of good composition. These reliefs were done in a narrative style that told the story of battle, whether it be against rival armies or hunted animals. So, yung The Stele of Hammurabi daw is parang nilaan para kay King Hammurabi na parang siya yung unang gumawa ng formal lawmaker. Siya yung tinawag na the first formal lawmaker from whom we get many of our own laws today. So, parang sa kanya nang galing yung mga laws natin ngayon. The powerful legacy of Persian art. Rulers in the area showed their influence and power through the architecture they built and would leave behind. Some of this architecture was built as a gesture of worship to a particular god or goddesses, such as in the case of the original temple in Israel. Nebuchadnezzar II of biblical frame built a gate in honor of Ishtar. So, with bricks of blue, gold, and black glaze paint and a gate covered in lapis lazuli, the gate would have shined like a jewel from quite far away. On approaching the gate, viewers would have seen bulls, dragons, and flowers decorating the surrounding wall in honor of for the goddess. The metallurgy of the period was detailed and crafted in ways that have not been improved upon to this day. Drinking vessels and vases were formed into near-perfect representation of animals and finished with relief etchings of natural scenes. Ceramics were both beautiful in form and highly proficient function, and were even whimsical in design. So the Persian art is a powerful legacy. It says that they say that yung mga rulers nila, I mean, yung parang nakaka-influence sila and yung mga power nila is by architecture at parang iniiwan nila yung mga ginawa nila na napakaganda na parang tatatak sa isip mo kung gaano kaganda at yung parang maa-appreciate siya ng lahat kasi ang powerful ng legacy ng Persian of art. So here is the first original temple ancient Near Eastern art. We have always realized as Israelis and as Jews that we are not fighting Islam and thus avoided turning the Temple Mount issue into war of Jews against Muslim by Rivlin. So as we can see in the picture, it is, 'di ba, first original. So parang pinakaunang original na temple in ancient Near Eastern art. So as we can see, napakaganda niya and napaka-solid ng pagkagawa. Parang ilang beses na siyang nagawa sa sobrang ganda. Pero itong temple na to, pinapakita na ayaw nila ng war, na hindi sila nakikipag-war. And now, let us go to what is Islamic art. The Dome of the Rock, the Taj Mahal, a Mina eyewear bowl, a silk carpet, a Quran, all of these are examples of Islamic art. But what is Islamic art? So, Islamic art is a modern concept created by art historians in the 19th century to facilitate categorization and study the material first, produced under the Islamic people that emerged from Arabia in the 7th century. Today, the term Islamic art describes all of the arts that were produced in the lands where Islam was the dominant religion of or the religion of those who ruled, unlike the terms Christian art, Jewish art, and Buddhist art, which refers only to religious art of these faiths. The term Islamic art is not used merely to describe religious art or architecture, but applies to all art forms produced in the Islamic world. So, itong Islamic art is hindi lang siya nagdi-describe ng religious art, pero or architecture art, pero parang pwede siyang i-apply sa lahat ng art forms produced by Islamic world. Hindi katulad ng Christian art, Buddhist art, Jewish art na religious lang yung parang ipinapakita. Pero dito sa Islamic art, parang it applies nga to all art forms produced in the Islamic world. Tsaka, itong mga example niya is yung Taj Mahal, Mina eyewear bowl, Quran, ito yung the Dome of the Rock. Thus, the term Islamic art refers not only to works created by Muslim artists, artisans, and architects for Muslim patrons. It compasses work created by Muslim artists for patrons of any faith including Christian, Jewish, or Hindus, and the works created by Jews, Christian, and other living in Islamic lands for patrons Muslim and otherwise. One of the most famous monuments of Islamic art is the Taj Mahal, a royal mausoleum located in Agra, India. Hinduism is the majority religion in India. However, because Muslim rulers, most famously the Mughals dominated large area of modern-day India for centuries. India has a vast range of Islamic art and architecture. The Great Mosque of Shan, China, is one of the oldest the and art and best preserved mosques in China. First constructed in 742 CE, the mosque's current from dates to the 15th century CE and follows the plan and architecture of a contemporary Buddhist temple. In fact, much Islamic art and architecture was and still is created through a synthesis of local tradition and more global ideas. These are the example of the mosques of the Islamic art. So, the view of Great Mosque of Shan image, view of minarets of Blue Mosques, Istanbul, and the minarets of Al-Ashar Mosque, Cairo, Egypt. The themes of Islamic art is similarly there are themes and types of object that link the arts of the Islamic world together. Calligraphy is a very important art form in the Islamic world. The Quran, written in elegant, represent Allah's or God's divine word which Muhammad received directly from Allah during his vision. Quranic verses executed in calligraphy are found on many different forms of art and architecture. Likewise, poetry can be found on everything from ceramic bowls to the walls of houses. Calligraphy omnipresence underscore the value that is placed on language, specifically Arabic. Geometric and vegetative motifs are very popular throughout the lands where Islam was once or still a major religion and cultural force, appearing in the private palace of buildings such as the Alhambra in Spain, as well as in the detailed metalwork of Safavid Iran. Likewise, certain building types appear throughout the Islamic world. Mosques with their minarets, mausoleo, gardens, any madrasas, religious schools are all common. However, their forms are vary greatly. Art of Islamic world. In this article, we use phrase art of the Islamic world to emphasize that the art discussed was created in a world where Islam was a dominant religion or a major cultural but was not necessarily religious art. Often, when the word Islamic is used today, it is used to describe something religious. Thus, using the phrase Islamic art could be mistakenly interpreted to mean that all of this art is religious in nature. The phrase arts of the Islamic world also acknowledges that not all the work produced in the Islamic world was for Muslim or created by Muslim. So it says that hindi lahat ng artwork ng Islamic world is ina-acknowledge nila or ginawa ng mga Muslim, kasi meron din yung sa Jews art, Christian art na Islamic world. Pag ginamit mo daw yung Islamic world sa ngayon, ito yung parang dinidescribe niya na something religious or parang na mistakenly interpreted nila na the all of this art is religious in nature. Now, East Asian arts. East Asian arts, the visual arts, performing arts, and music of China, Korea, North Korea, and South Korea, and Japan. The literature of this region is treated in separate articles on Chinese literature, Korean literature, and Japanese literature. Some studies of East Asia also include the cultures of the Indo-Chinese Peninsula and adjoining islands, as well as Mongolia to the north. The logic of this occasional inclusion is based on the strict geographic definition as well as recognition of common bonds forged through the acceptance of Buddhism by many of these cultures. China, Korea, and Japan, however, have been uniquely linked for several millennia by a common written language and by broad cultural and political connections that have ranged in spirit from the uncritically adorational to the contentious. The visual arts from ancient times, China has been dominant and referential culture in East Asia. Although variously developed and Neolithic cultures existed on the Korea Peninsula and on the Japanese archipelago, archaeological evidence in the form of work, stone, and blades from the Paleolithic and Neolithic periods suggests an exchange between the early East Asian cultures and the early introduction of Chinese influence. So this cultural interaction was facilitated in part by land bridge that connected Japan with the continent. Significant developments in the production of earthenware vessels from as early as 14,000 BCE in Japan. Thus far, the world's earliest dated pottery, and from approximately 3,500 BCE in Korea are well documented. They reveal a rich symbolic vocabulary and decorative sense as well as a highly successful union of function and dynamic form. These types of vessels chronicle the increasing needs for storage as there was a gradual societal transformation from nomadic and foraging cultures for more sedentary crop-producing cultures. There were pottery-dominant cultures in China as well. The painted 5000 BCE and Black c. 2500 BCE earthenware are the best known. The performing arts. From ancient times, dance and theater have played a vital role in China, Korea, and Japan. Many performances of plays and dances were closely tied to religious beliefs and customs. In China, records from about 1000 BCE describe magnificently costumed male and female shamans who sang and danced to musical accompaniment, drawing the heavenly spirit down to earth through their performance. Impersonation of other characters through makeup and costume was occurring at least by the 4th century BCE. Many masked dances in Korea have a religious function. So performances invoking Buddha protection specifically ay, are especially popular and numerous in Japan and Korea. Throughout East Asia, the descendants of magical religious performances can be seen in a variety of guises, whether designed to pray for longevity or for a rich harvest or to ward off disease and evil. The rituals of impersonation of supernatural beings through masks and costumes and the repetition of rhythmic music and patterns of movement perform the function of linking humans to the spiritual world beyond. Hence, from the earliest times in East Asia, dance and music are dramatic mimesis have been naturally fused through the religious function. So performing arts, so it means perform. From the word performing, so it may be dance, sing, played, or maybe a musical accompaniment, or drawing also is an example of performing arts. I mean, drawing the heavenly spirits down to earth through their performances. So, pwede rin silang mag-impersonate ng tao, which is ginagaya nila yung yung katauhan ng isang example, yung performances invoking Buddha, ganun pinaperform nila yon para sa mga protection, and especially the popular and numerous in Japan and Korea. So the common traditions. As previously noted, China, Korea, and Japan have been historically close for centuries, thus accounting for their numerous common artistic tradition. From pre-Christian times until the 8th and 9th century CE, the great trade routes crossed from the Middle East through Central Asia into China. Hinduism, Buddhism, some knowledge of ancient and much knowledge of Indian arts entered into China, and thence in time into Korea and Japan. Perhaps before the Common Era, the Central Asian art of manipulating hand puppets was carried to China for more than 700 years until 668 in the Kingdom of Goguryeo, embracing Northern Korea and Manchuria. Court music and dance from Central Asia, from Han China, from Manchuria, and from Korea, called the Chisu and Kasiju, were performed. So all in all, it is notable that although some dance and theater forms were highly regarded in China, Korea, and Japan, performers were usually looked down upon. Wandering performers especially were despised in the agrarian societies, where attachment to the land and was values and Confucian teaching, strong throughout East Asia, stressed veneration of one's parents, which included tending their graves and making offerings for their welfare in the spirit world. The place of drama or of dance in these societies depended in part upon their audiences, whether they were court nobles, villagers, or town merchants. At the Chinese and Korean courts, young female dancers were part of the ruler's personal retinue, often his concubines. They were not allowed to mix with men of the court, so that some court arts were performed solely by men and others solely by women. This custom and the consequent artistic practice of male and female impersonation is also found in the court theater of Cambodia and Thailand. In Japan, women seldom perform at court, and the major dance and theater form were entirely the province of male performers. Since it was unusual for rulers and courtiers themselves to take part in the performance, they often did not. Java, Bali, and Thailand, the court artist was usually a middle-level civil servant. So, that's all for today. I hope you get a lot learnings from my report. Thanks for watching.